Hello everyone, welcome to Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Rich Hagon, Brian David-Marshall here with you to walk you through some of the most interesting, exciting, powerful, who knows what cards, and some of the most interesting, exciting, powerful, and who knows what players coming in to this, our second Pro Tour of the season. BDM, give us a sense what's in store over the next 3 days.
Well, you know what? This is Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch, and the first thing we're going to do is crack open a pack of Oath of the Gatewatch. We're going to start off with draft, and that is going to be Oath of the Gatewatch, and then one pack of Battle for Zendikar. This is really a new way to draft the second set in a expansion in a block, and it's really changed the way people are looking at this format, and I can't wait to see what the pros' take is on it after seeing the results of our 3 Grand Prix last weekend in Nagoya, Mexico City, and Vancouver.
Right. Draft is very different, but guess what else? Modern is very different because there are a couple of big players that we will not see this weekend. You will not see Summer Bloom. You will not Splinter Twin.
I mean, that's the finals of the last Modern Pro Tour.
Right.
It's Summer Bloom versus Splinter Twin, with Splinter Twin eventually taking the title at our last Modern Pro Tour. Both of those decks, they're not necessarily gone, right? Because you could still do certain things, but you know they're certainly hobbled.
For sure.
Yeah.
So why don't we take a look at some of the cards from Oath of the Gatewatch that we're going to be seeing this weekend. Some in Limited, some in Modern, some, well, we're not quite sure. We're going to begin over here, BDM, with Kozilek, the Great Distortion, the giant 10-mana icon of the set.
Well, you know what? I mean, the big question, I think, in Modern is whether or not there will be an Eldrazi deck represented in this tournament. You know, Kozilek is the biggest and baddest and, you know, most exciting. Even if he gets countered, you get to draw cards up to 7. You know, a very powerful card, very exciting. Big mana decks, Tron, you know, using Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant, and Urza's Tower, or the Eldrazi mana decks using, you know, Eldrazi Temples and the like, have the ability to, you know, get to 10 mana or reduce the cost down to a manageable number anyway.
Next up, Thought Not Seer, which we're kind of expecting is going to turn up in both formats.
Yeah, this has been a very highly, a very in-demand card leading up to this event. We've already seen it show up in a number of Modern decks, and you know, it obviously gives the Eldrazi deck the opportunity to buy some time, but it also gives, you know, it can go in a Jund deck, it can go in other decks. It compares very favorably to Vendilion Click. So
that says something.
That says quite a bit.
All right, now here's a card that probably doesn't compare favorably with Vendilion Click. Lots of small little effects on Warping Whale. Exile a small creature, counter a target sorcery, get a Scion, which presents with you with C mana, colorless mana, as we say.
Yeah.
What's the thought here?
I mean, if there's an Eldrazi deck, this is exactly the kind of tool a deck like that is going to want to get to its late game. You know, whether it's exiling a Vendilion Click or exiling a Dark Confidant or countering a Scape Shift. You know, it does a lot of different things.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
If there is something strange in your neighborhood, who are you going to call?
Probably my local news. I don't know.
No, you're going to call the Gatewatch. And here they come. Let's take a look at our next set of 3 cards for you. Call the Gatewatch, a card that it's going to appear in one format, if at all, because almost certainly no one's starting this in Limited.
I mean, maybe you are if you're in those colors and you want
3 Planeswalkers.
You have the Planeswalkers. But we saw this show up when we were in Vancouver. We saw this show up in a Modern deck where it served as a tutor for, you know, either Karn or Ugin. Mm-hmm. So, you know, a card that has, you know, at least we've seen some people playing with this card in Modern, and certainly has a role, again, in those big mana decks that have the ability to, you know, generate white mana.
Many turns in Limited are going to begin with this, Slip Through Space.
Well, this is a card that really is here for 2 reasons. One, I mean, it represents the Surge mechanic. This is one of the big, new, exciting mechanics in Oath of the Gatewatch Limited. You can play a spell on the turn, then your next spell, if it has Surge, is going to be reduced in cost. A card like Slip Through Space is really nice. It replaces itself. Sometimes it can, you know, you can strike the lethal blow with it, but really it makes, you know, maybe your Boulder Salvo cheaper on turn 3 for something you need to kill. But you know what? Don't count this card out on Modern either. Okay. You know, this is exactly the type of card that could show up in the Infect decks that we've seen at these events before.
Next up, we've got Remorseless Punishment. Now, honestly, this could be great. It could be hideous. We don't really know. And that's all part of the fun of all these like 185 new cards coming into the new format. What's it going to do?
Right, this card is here specifically because it's an exciting, big effect, the kind of thing you want to do when you play Magic. You know, can you make a draft deck work with it? Can you make a modern deck? You know, that's a very cruel ultimatum-y kind of effect. You know, is there a way to make that work? We'll find out this weekend. I don't know.
Okay, so if we move on again, now our next card is a card we do already know. This is powerful and good, not just powerful.
Sure.
Goblin Dark Dwellers, 3 red, Menace, and you get to cast an instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost 3 or less. So, a player in Modern?
Possibly. I mean, it's certainly a card that talking to people in advance of the Pro Tour, who are doing Modern podcasts, it's a card that people were interested in.
Right.
And it can return. You get to cast a Colligan's Command. If there's a mid-range mono red land destruction. Your Molten Raining. Boom Bust is a card that is very, very interesting with this because you can actually cast the bigger side of Boom Bust with this. So. A card to keep an eye out for, and certainly a card, I mean, even in limited, very, very powerful effect.
The Planeswalkers, in terms of the flavor of Oath of the Gatewatch, are very, very important. Here's Nissa, and this time around, Oath of Nissa, we think is going to do a lot of heavy lifting, potentially in Modern.
Well, it's certainly the type of, deck manipulation card we've seen a lot of in Modern. Costs 1 mana. You're able to, look at the top of your library, find a planeswalker, a land, or a creature, things that, you help you sort of sift. Does a lot of things. It also, if you're playing, let's say, a Jund deck, helps you find Liliana of the Veil, smooths out your mana to cast Liliana of the Veil. And, by the way, it's a legendary enchantment, so if you happen to play 2 of them, one of them goes to the graveyard, maybe your Tarmogoyf gets a little bigger, which is a nice thing to do. And enchantments can be a high degree of difficulty on enchantments in Modern for your Tarmogoyfs.
All right. And finally, up on the big board, Storm Chaser Mage. Blue-red, flying, haste, prowess, 1/3. So a clear limited card. Might someone start doing something in Modern?
It's one of these question mark cards that we have coming into the Modern format. You have Monastery Swiftspear. You have Wee Dragonauts at 3.
Wee Dragonauts, everyone's favorite Scottish card.
Yes. And then, so now we have Storm Chaser Mage in the middle there. Is there a critical mass of these kind of prowess creatures where, you can really, put away a game?
All right, so Modern is our constructed format. Oath of the Gatewatch, Battle of the Zendikar, that's limited. But when we come in, we're going to have the best part of 400 players from around the world. How do they get here? There are 9 different ways you could have qualified to be here in Atlanta with us this weekend. We've chosen one person from each of those 9 categories to spotlight for you now. So let's bring up our first 3 great players from around the world. BDM, our Hall of Famer, represented by PVDDM.
Yeah, worth noting, some of these players will have been invited multiple ways.
Multiple ways.
Paul is a great example of that. This is someone who is, in the discussion for, where does he rank in the top 5 players? Where does he rank in the top 3 players? He keeps getting on shorter and shorter lists of Magic players. He has 10 Pro Tour top 8s. He's in the Hall of Fame. Has been one of the greatest players in the game for the bulk of his time in the game.
Yeah, the last decade. You sort of think of him arriving at Worlds 2006 in Paris. Next door to him, representing the Platinum Pros, that's the pinnacle of the game in recent times, our last season, and right at the top of the heap, your reigning player of the year, it's Mike Sigrist.
Yeah, Mike Sigrist working with Team Face-to-Face Games, Channel Fireball, Team Face-to-Face Games collaborated for this event. Player of the year, great limited player, shown himself to be no slouch constructed, had 2 Pro Tour top 8s in 1 season. Yeah, multiple Grand Prix victories, just tremendous player.
One notch down from the Platinums are the Golds, but this is currently the hottest man in Magic. Fabrizio Anteri, the Venezuelan, out of England. He's just completed his 4th Grand Prix win from 8 Grand Prix top 8s. Only 6 people, Mr. Historian, have more Grand Prix wins than Fabrizio Anteri. 5 of them are already in the Hall of Fame. And Yuya Watanabe's the other.
I was like, wait. I mean, no, he's not in there. He's eligible this year.
Correct, yeah. So Anteri absolutely at the height of his game, and he represents the gold pros.
He's also playing this weekend for a world championship slot, isn't he?
Right, because right now he is the leader for the mid-season master. So we'll see whether he can lock that slot up for Worlds. Big weekend for
At the end of the weekend, the player with the most pro points this season thus far, not counting the World Championship, or will get an invite to lock in an invite to the World Championship.
All right.
Be him.
So next up, we go to our top 25. So this is right here, right now. Who's delivering the most? Well, we've actually gone with the number one right now, and it's Owen Turtenwell.
Yeah, you know what? There is nobody in the game right now who's, just playing better Magic, thinking about Magic more, really just, how do you improve on Owen Turtenwald's last couple of seasons of Magic? Well, it seemed impossible or unfathomable that he is, laser focused on that. He's just spent the last 11 days in a house with a baker's dozen of the greatest Magic players on Earth, the most accomplished Magic players on Earth, and he's it's just amazing to watch him play.
Now, you could have got here by finishing well at the last Pro Tour, that's Battle for Zendikar, like this man did. Martin Muller was in the top 25 finishers at Pro Tour Battle for Zendikar.
Yeah, Martin Muller, one of the really exciting young players in the game right now. World Magic Cup champion, World Magic Cup top 8 again, and just very, very exciting to watch working with Team Eureka.
Every season, players who make the top 8 of a Grand Prix that feeds the Pro Tour, they get a slot at the highest level of competition. That means this man, Zhang Ziyang of China, he gets to come here. Now, if you're thinking, where do I know the name? Because, so many names through Magic history, you're thinking, I'm sure I've heard it somewhere. 2009, Rome, the World Championship went to China in one of the great unheralded upsets of all time in Magic, and Zhang Ziyang was on that team. He gets here by virtue of being in the top 8 of a feeder Grand Prix. So you can go to a Grand Prix in your region, and if you make it to the final 8, even if you don't get the trophy, this is where you end up. Great job by him. Great to see him back on the Pro Tour. So then, how about the one where you can just sort of fall out of bed, onto your computer, off we go. The Magic Online Pro Tour Qualifier winner. Tell us about Neil Oliver.
Neil Oliver, someone who's a 2-time U.S. national team member. He won the first Grand Prix Las Vegas. A tremendous player, Mod Masters, and just a tremendous limited player, has had great success at the Grand Prix and is really looking for his big breakthrough Pro Tour breakthrough finish at the Pro Tour level.
Now, our next category, 32 players get here this way because they were in a team that made it in the top 8 of the World Magic Cup. Ultimately won by this man and 3 other people waving the Italian flag. Marco Camilleri is also a gold pro, and Italian Magic just really on the rise, not just because of that event, but with Andrea Mengucci, who's now at the pinnacle of his game. Fabrizio Anteri has plenty of Italian blood in his veins. The Italians are really a coming force once again.
And they were a joy to watch as they won the World Magic Cup.
Utterly beautiful. And finally, the way that most of all people get to the Pro Tour, that's by playing in their local PPTQs, qualifying for a regional PTQ, and then actually getting to the top of that heap. So for that, well, you're represented by Antonino De Rosa.
Talking about Italian Magic, he was working with some of the first Italians to make top 8s at the Pro Tour. Andrea Santini in 2001 and Worlds.
Right.
Someone who's had tremendous success, has been kind of trying to get his way back onto the Pro Tour. One that our PTQ said it was in the same room that he used to play PTQs years ago. It was a tremendously powerful experience for him.
Right.
And he's working with the Pantheon, so very excited to see what he brings to the table.
So somewhere between those 9 ways to make it here to Atlanta, Georgia, we're going to have a winner on Sunday. But first, we're going to have 3 rounds of draft, 5 rounds of modern. Half the field or so will come back on Saturday to do it all again. And then the top 8. And we have big news about the top 8, BDM. Sunday is going to be even better than the last few we've had.
Yeah, we've been doing best 2 out of 3 for a little while now, but we are going back to the format of best 3 of 5 in the top 8. So that means each match they'll play the first game on sideboard, and then they have 4 sideboarded games to play, up to 4 anyway. Yep. Mm-hmm. Best 3 of 5. We're going to bring you as much Magic as possible. We're going to see every single player in the top 8 on camera in the top 8, and it's just going to be tremendous.
Yeah, quarterfinals 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4 together, and then every turn of both semi-finals and the final in all its glory. It's going to be such a great show. Can't wait for all the modern, all the limited action. You know where to come. Thanks so much for being with us. This is the preview. Rich, Brian, bye.